There is completeness in this very moment. That while looking for something, we are simply ignoring, not noticing. Completeness which is not the sum of many things, or ideas, or experiences. It is the very completeness of this conscious presence that we are. This can never be measured or explained or understood. Our mind is looking for so many things to fill up the idea it has of its own smallness, tininess, of its own incapacity, of its limitation. All those ideas that we are carrying of ourselves, of being those small creatures, beings, ever dependent on so many things, wanting, fearing. It is to battle those ideas, those concepts that are so strongly rooted, that we are constantly reaching out for something, looking for someone to lead us, someone to tell us what to do, to tell us what is the right thing, to direct us to the right direction. While all along we have all that we may ever need. Because we are this moment itself, this very conscious presence. Nothing can be taken from it. Nothing can be added to it. But this is not seen at all. It is not lived. It is not acknowledged. Our mind is constantly reaching out, looking, running after something, hungry. Why? What does it want to achieve? But most importantly, for whom? Who is lacking this very moment that needs all those things that our mind is trying to get? What is the concept, the idea, the very core perception of ourselves that is giving this beautiful intelligence, this mind, a constant mission to find something, to achieve something, to get something, to fight something, to resist something, to attract something? What is the very core perception of ourselves that is driving and wasting this enormous energy, this beautiful life force? If you allow yourself fearlessly to simply be present right now, you will find that you actually don't know yourself as a presence at all. Even if you just sit silently, you are sitting within your ideas of yourself. Mind is constantly narrating this presence. There is a constant representation of something. We are never ourselves, alone, in our deep innocence and intimacy. If we can just let go of this fear for a moment, of not knowing who we are, of not having this crystal idea of ourselves as someone, as something, as some kind of story in time and space. If you just let go this deep fear of not knowing ourselves as an object, then perhaps we can start to acknowledge this miraculous presence that we are. This miraculous self-conscious presence that actually never spoke a single word and never thought a single thought of itself. It has ever been just this presence. Complete, still, wondrous, silent and transparent. Don't be afraid to challenge those endless concepts that the mind has about your being, about your life. Those have been implemented by society, by this biological process to survive in society, to know how to function in society. You have become an object that can be manipulated. It can be this or that, it can be right and wrong, it can be a sinner, it can be a saint. An object between polarities, always in tension. Intention of making the wrong move, intention of the unknown future, intention of how the other will perceive you, or how you will perceive yourself. Those masks, those ideas, those concepts, they are not in your immediate experience. If you allow yourself to simply be very, very close to yourself at this very moment, deeply sincere and simple, you will see that you cannot experience any of those ideas as you. They're all external. They're all symbolic. They're just symbols representing something, a form, a function. If you just for a moment notice this very awareness that is experienced right now, this very consciousness, you will not find any color to it. It does not have a gender even. It is not male or female. It does not have any nationality. It has no memory. It has no knowledge at all. No experience. It is this ever-present light of knowingness, of consciousness, of awareness. But mind is not looking at this at all. This has no interest for our minds. In other words, we, as consciousness, as this light, we are looking at ourselves through the mirror of mind, instead of seeing ourselves directly, acknowledging our very conscious, blissful presence. And since the mind is a functional intelligence, which has to measure, compare, in order to create some kind of cause and effect relation between objects, looking at ourselves through the mirror of the mind, we perceive ourselves as objects. as something that had a cause, something that can be constantly influenced, that is made of different influences, experiences, perceptions, ideas. Mind is constantly organizing those experiences, making some order there, some meaning, and we are locked in this structure, believing that this is truly representing what we are, completely ignoring this completeness that is ever present and is not caused by anything. Mind is not the enemy. There is no problem with the way the mind functions. There is only one problem. We don't recognize ourselves. We don't recognize our very presence. We are allowing ourselves to look at ourselves constantly through the mirror of the mind, through its reflections, through its shadows, through its play of forms, ideas. Mind is simply a representation machine. It is representing something in order to use it, in order to achieve some result. It is an intelligence of creativity. Look at art and see how forms lose their original meaning and start to relate one to another through different meanings, and we find it beautiful. What is this? It is this freedom of the mind to relate to a form or to a movement in different ways, through different angles. None of those angles is the truth. It is a game, it is a play. It depends on the context. Looking from one context, mind sees one thing and can use it for one thing. Looking at the same thing through a different context, it becomes another thing at all. But none of those relative, partial contexts are the whole. Therefore, when you look upon yourself through those infinite contexts and ideas, you never see yourself. You never experience yourself. You experience the play of mind. And as a play, it is beautiful. But when the play is no longer seen as a play, when it is seen as life, as existence itself, as what you are, when the play, the game, becomes a substitute for your direct knowing of yourself, then you suffer. Then you feel suffocated. You feel bound. You want to fight it. You want to free yourself. What is necessary is just clarity. The clarity to see the play of forms, the play of ideas, the play of these infinite representations of the mind as what they truly are. They are not what is. They are never pointing to what is. They're just a play. They're just concepts, representations. They're not representing what is. They're representing what the mind wants to see at a certain moment, for a certain context. And this strong sense of you that the mind is protecting at every single moment, this idea of you. What is this truly? Can there be sincerity and openness to investigate, not analytically of course, but directly, to see it? Has this idea of you ever been you, truly? Is this experience of presence, of conscious presence, right this very moment? This conscious presence has no context. There is no owner to this. No one is turning this on and off. It does not belong to anyone. It is not controlled by anyone. It is the very gift, the very wonder of existence. It is the very conscious beingness of life itself. So does this I, this idea of you, does it relate to this experience? To this completeness, to this light of being, to this light of awareness? And if not, then to what does it relate? This ever-going story inside our heads, what does it relate to? Does it relate to anything real at all? Or is it like a dream? A play of self-referral that the mind is playing, perceiving form, perceiving senses, perceiving light, movement, and then making an idea of itself through those inputs. It is a conclusion. This idea is made of a conclusion, that those experiences represent the whole. It is not given in the very experience itself. Even your body is not ever giving you the notion that it is you. Yes, the body is experienced, of course, but the body doesn't say that it is you. It is very silent. Then where is this you hiding? Truth is, it is not hiding anywhere because it does not exist at all. This sense of you is an abstract formulation made of these different experiences of bodily sensations, ideas, things that you have been told, things that the mind has told itself in order to make some sense biologically, socially. And here you are. Suddenly you are this object that has infinite definitions. constantly intention to keep its own borders, to make sense of itself, to understand itself, to have some meaning to itself. Such a pain, such a heavy weight, such an impossible mission. Yes, it has some moments of joy too, but eventually you feel the very weight of carrying this shadow of yourself. It is only then that you may want to see something like this. Because something within is already willing to shatter this prison of being you. At first you thought that the prison is being a certain you, an ugly you that becomes a beautiful you, an unsuccessful you that becomes a more successful you. So many hopes, so many effort. Eventually you see the suffering is just in being you. It is not in being a certain you, this you, or that you. Just relating to yourself as this shadow, this constant self-referral to you, to yourself as an object, is such a suffocating experience. Life becomes a chase. It becomes an ever-growing tension with some breaks of relief. So, if that is the case, then please just remain as you are and allow this mental dream that is constantly reaffirming itself, reassuring itself, to be seen. It is this game of images that is not perceived as a game that keeps you bound to it. There is nobody to free. It is in fact a paradox that we even speak about it. Because you are free. You are life itself. It has always been the case. Only this life that you are is still looking at itself through the mirror of the mind. So all that is necessary is just to see this very, very simply and very, very clearly. To see this phenomenon of mind creating an idea of itself and referring to itself through this idea all the time. This may need to be seen many, many times, because by this time it has been taken for granted. It appears to you as truth, as life, as you. So patience is necessary. Facing this phenomenon, this image of yourself, created in the mind, defined by the mind, related by the mind as to yourself, has to be seen as constantly as possible. There is so much beauty and magnificence all around and within, so to speak, because there is no around and within, in truth. It is all there is. Every movement of this world of forms is an expression of magnificence, of wonder. But it can only be experienced when there is no longer a representation that flattening it to an idea, an image. It can only be experienced when we perceive this existence in a childlike way. When the mind is not reaching out to understand it and therefore to represent it in some way. That is also what makes us so fearful, paradoxically, of our own being. Because this nowness of our very presence can never be understood. There is nothing to understand here. There is nothing to know here. And our mind used to constantly reorient itself within some base of knowledge. It is very fearful to stand in this everythingness, where it doesn't know how to orient itself at all. So it may take some time to realize that this very immediacy, this very simple conscious presence is our very home. But it is bound to happen.